Hello, everyone, and welcome to RHAP's coverage of Australian Survivor v World. I'm your host, Shannon Guss, here for some more pre-season content. If it wasn't enough to watch all of Survivor Quebec, we watched the shorter Survivor Finland Season 7, which I will not try and pronounce. I do have it in front of me. I'll try.
Selvatage? No.
There's a Y. There are many symbols.
Yeah.
There's many V's. Or one V only. It's two Y's. A J.
You have like the dots above the letters as well.
Yeah. I apologize. Anyway, we watched Season 7 of Survivor Finland. We're here to talk about Tommi's game. And to talk about it, I have someone who agreed to watch Survivor Finland. He has his own podcast, and he's here on RHAP for the first time. It is a great Mucky Hope. Mucky, thank you for being here.
Anytime, Shannon. And as I always say, you never forget your first. So I'm so honored to finally be here on RHAP as a podcast, chatting with you. How exciting.
Yeah, well, my first podcast on RHAP was Debbie. And Tommi is less crazy than Debbie. You know, Tommi, Survivor Finland was a lot. We'll talk about Survivor. Well, it was a lot less than Survivor Quebec.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about Survivor Finland. But Tommi is coming in here. And Tommi, you love to see it because Tommi is such a huge fan. Like, Tommi spoke about how he'd been a fan for over 20 years. Well, this was in 2022. So, like, since the beginning, day one US fan. And this must be like a dream come true for him to be on the season with all of these legends.
Yeah. I mean, like, to even go on the show in the first place is like a dream come true, right? And then to be asked back, not just for a returning player season, but like playing against the world greatest players with like two-time winners, huge fan favorites, you know, like David, George, you know, like people who make reality TV their whole career. It's like, where do I even come from? I come from a non-English speaking Survivor. No one even knew I existed until this season was announced. And here I am playing against the greatest Australian and world players. So yeah, I can't imagine what Tommi must have felt, and Cassandra as well. Getting invited to play the season.
Tommi's a big deal in his own right. Like Tommi has 160,000 Instagram followers. He's a radio presenter. Everyone in Survivor Finland is someone important. Not that everyone's important, but like is someone I think like somewhat famous. They're like singers and actors and sports people and radio presenters. And Tommi is a radio presenter. Just to give a little bit of the backstory on the Survivor Finland experience that we had. Now, thank you to the people who provided Survivor Finland. As I said with Quebec, I do not have an invite link. I cannot invite anyone to watch it. I apologize. You will find out about Tommi now through what we tell you when we take you on the journey of Tommi. But the subtitles. Thank you. We appreciate it. They left a lot to be desired. They were a lot worse than the Survivor Quebec subtitles. It was clearly AI. I think at one point the subtitles even apologized to me. Like I actually took a screenshot of it. Like in the middle, it was like brackets. It's like we're doing the best we can kind of thing. So that gives a sense of where we were at. The subtitles weren't great. Everyone is someone, so they kind of all know who each other are, but I don't know who anyone is. And half, not Tommi, but one tribe were returnees. I was like, this is a lot to catch up on very quickly. I was finding my feet for the first like several episodes. I did get there eventually. Like I just used to start like you start becoming a little fluent in the bad subtitles. Like you start, but yeah, we struggled through it, and now we will tell you about Tommi. But Mucky, was anything that stood out to you about Survivor Finland? How did you enjoy the season?
I mean, look, I really enjoyed it. I kind of feel like Survivor Finland is on the same sort of vibe as like Survivor UK and even some of the New Zealand Survivors. Where is it mind-blowing crazy? Not really. But is it bad? No, like it's a pretty good all-round season overall. And I think I've messaged you as well, where at some points during the pre-merge, I felt like it was a game of equilibrium because the subtitles were really bad. I couldn't follow along. And I was like, okay, so this person's clearly getting voted out. And then someone else entirely got voted out, and I was like, what the hell happened? And I went back to watch it, and I still didn't know how it happened. So yeah, it was really crazy. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And if you can watch it, I strongly recommend it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was good that it started a little slow. It was kind of slow, I think, until like the very end, which was good because I was just barely keeping up. I think if it were more complex, I would have drowned. But the thing about the season is I do think that comparing it to like a UK or some of the New Zealand seasons, is it not Survivor New Zealand season 1 is we don't talk about that season. But like even like New Zealand, Thailand, in that it feels like a kind of old school US season. I would put it lower than those seasons. I enjoyed those other seasons more because I think this season to me was very slow and not a lot was happening until very late. The things that those old school style seasons have to working to their advantage is it can feel kind of slow. But then when something happens, like we'll talk about the final 5 here was like a huge blindside of me and Tommy and someone else who went. But when that happens, it's very earned because you've really invested into like the status quo. It's not kind of like New Era Survivor when often it's like bang, bang, bang. Every episode we're doing something, so we're kind of like, whereas like this is, we build it up over extreme amounts of time and then it's super earned. It's just that for me, this came at the final 5. Final 5 on was a wild ride, which we'll talk about. I just think it took like quite too much time to get there. Where like, not much has really happened. Like, what is the main moment of the season? And then it came from final 5 onwards. So like something like UK that happens at final 9. Something with Thailand, New Zealand, Thailand, I think actually has quite a lot of moments. I put that above. Like the whole of UK, like the merge is quite good. Whereas I feel like this like was much slower for much longer. But I do think it had that kind of US vibe. And also I think the cast as well might know a little bit less about Survivor. To be fair, a lot of them were returnees. But like it's kind of an eclectic cast with different values. They're not all necessarily super fans. We'll see it in the jury for it. Like them value kind of different story elements and things like that I think also takes you back to maybe national seasons and definitely like old school US where everyone was playing the game on more diverse terms, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess it really goes to what you sort of enjoy more. Like, even though I love the fast paced, like, Brains vs. Brawn 2, even some like New Era seasons type of gameplay, sometimes it is nice to just enjoy a bit of a slower like pace game. Like, I loved how they're like building up the character of Tommy, Julie, even like Walu, I think that's how you say his name. I was like, wow, like I'm actually really enjoying him. So when he gets, taken out, like just before the merge, I was like, no, you can't do this to Walu. He's a big character. What are you doing?
Yeah. I thought my thing was I thought nothing was ever going to happen. We can talk about it. Basically, Tommy ran the game with his number one partner named Hail Mary. I, in my mind, thought Tommy was going to lose in the final tribal council, which is what ended up happening. But I was kind of on the fence about it because I had thought that Cass was a fallen angel, and then she lost at the final tribal council. In my mind, I was like, is Tommy a fallen angel instead? So I wasn't like super sure, but I was 90% sure that Tommy would lose at the final tribal council. And I couldn't imagine him losing against anyone but Hail Mary. So I kind of imagined that he was going to the end with Hail Mary and losing. Yeah. When Hail Mary was taken out the final 5, spoiler alert, it was shocking to me. Yeah. Like, it's actually fun to be so blindsided by the show. It's like I was anti-spoiled. And like, I was watching it next to Peter. I'm like, not much has happened in the season. It's been really slow. I'm like complaining about it as the votes are being read. And I assume that they're not going to vote out Hail Mary, which at the time would have been an incredibly stupid move. We'll get to all of this. But like, they're going to like let this like clear duo run through. What are you doing? No big moment. But no, they did. They turned. They did the obvious thing. They voted out Hail Mary. I also apologize for butchering the names, I'm sure. Anyway, my jaw was on the floor. Peter was laughing at me. He's like, you were so cocky. You were like, there's no big moment. The season's been so slow. And I immediately was, completely proven wrong because that was big. And then the final 4, we'll talk about into the final tribal council and stuff, was all massive. But yeah, I think it should. I think it should get exciting like a little bit sooner than the final 5, probably. Yeah.
No, I actually had the exact same experience as you because I knew that Tommy came second, right? Because I like seen like where everyone had roughly placed, sort of doing my own research into the Australia vs. World cast. And I was trying to think, hey, who is he going to lose to? Like, Hail Mary, like, just one possibility. Julia and Sammy, I was like, no, not Sammy. I can't see him losing to Sammy, but maybe to Julia and Hail Mary I can. So when Hail Mary was blindsided, I was like, okay, so it's Julia then. He loses to Julia. And then I guess, spoiler alert, she is pretty much the fallen angel of the season. She comes third. And it's like, how the hell does Tommy bloody lose this then? He's played
Well, don't tell the people. Don't tell, because I think that was a fun game. The fun game was how, like, the fun game, like, going into it kind of rooting for Tommy, obviously being invested in Tommy, and knowing that he loses, probably we thought at a final 2 or final tribal council, was a really fun mystery of like, how's he going to get to this point? And we'll tell the people. It's a very interesting way that he loses at the final 2, and you don't expect it. So let's not tell the people until we get there on the journey, even though I've skipped ahead already. But yeah, it was shocking because that was my thing as well. I'm like, how is he going to lose at the final tribal council? Because Tommy is really controlling so much of the game. So should we take it back to the beginning of Tommy's journey? Okay, so the pre-merge, he goes to tribal council 3 times in the pre-merge. The pre-merge has 4 tribes. It swaps basically 3 different times. Like, one's kind of like a swapping kidnap situation for 1 round, and then they swap again. But it's a long pre-merge and a very short merge. So there's like 4 iterations of the tribe. And Tommy goes to tribal council once in 3 of them. He starts off not in the best spot because he's with Sammy, as you've heard, the eventual winner. And he's in a group of the older people. 31 years old. 31 years old. So he's in a group with the older people, and the younger people have their own little clique. And the younger people win out. Like Tommy does vote with them, but he's like very much on the outs of the younger people because he's in his 30s. I mean, he's practically dead. So it's not going well. Then they swap, but he's like, he's on the outs, but like in the majority. Then they swap, and he gets to the point he meets Hail Mary, who's a returnee, and they flip. Hail Mary flips over with another returnee, and even though he'd been in the minority, the newbies had been in the minority, they gained power through what would have been at that swap tribe. So that was a big thing, like a big connection point for him and Hail Mary, who are going to be this like great duo. And they get the power there. So those are that's like the first two main tribes. Do you have anything you want to add to Tommy's journey early on?
I guess just something I did quite like it about Tommy is a social game, right? Because that's my favorite aspect of Survivor is how people woo players over. That's a reason why I love Luke and Shani so much is you see the magic as they're like talking to people. You see them like moving people over. And that's something Tommy did really, really well. Like he found one-on-one connections with like Sammy, with Hail Mary as well, and formed such a deep like brotherhood with them to the point where even they were like, no, we got to stick together to work with Tommy. You know, and so like Tommy did such a great job in doing all that. And there's some other stuff I'll save for when we talk about the World Tribe. But I thought overall, socially, he was phenomenal and was doing such a great job, like building individual like relationships to get him further ahead.
Yeah, my one concern early socially was he kind of like was clashing a little bit from what I could tell from the bad subtitles early with like Leo and Pock, who were like the two kind of young guys who were a duo on the season until later on where Leo's going to swap and then kind of get into like a bit of a showmance with a girl. And then Pock comes over to their tribe and she doesn't like his friend, Pock. She doesn't like, and so Leo's kind of in the middle of his like friend and his like little showmance. And I'm like, this is actually really compelling television. So that was like a whole little triangle thing happening there. But like he kind of clashed, I felt a little bit on who was running the tribe or like the camp life kind of aspect. He was trying to be really helpful, but I think there was a bit of clashing. But clearly they got past that. Pock votes for him to win in the end. But he never really had a lot with them. He was getting on better with the girls and Sammy, like the older people early on. And then I think, he goes and he like really connects well with Hail Mary. Like by the time he gets to the merge through all these tribe iterations, he's really built up a group that's going to dominate through all his like different individual connections, which is a credit to him. And then through, I think the last swap, I think this was the last vote before the merge. Yeah, it was. It's a 5-person vote. Fun fact about Survivor Finland, they have a shot in the dark equivalent. What was it? Like Dice of Fate? That's what it was saying in the subtitles. But only the winning tribe, which was the returnees of the first reward, got them. And then Hail Mary won one later in a reward. And it was 1 in 3, not 1 in 6. You still had to give up your vote. And it was a 1 in 3 chance. And it expired at the final 6. So they split the vote because, as you said, Walu, who's this like big returnee, it was 3-2. His group was Julie and Sammy it was 3-2 against the two returnees. They split the vote 2-1 to protect against a shot in the dark, which Walu did play the shot in the dark. Had it hit, instead of Tommy going home on a 3-1 bounce back, it would have been 2-1, and they would have voted Walu out, but the shot in the dark didn't hit. But that was a 2-1 vote. So I'm like, look, he's doing well. Like you have to credit the fact that he is, I think, really controlling a lot of these splits. Like he knows what to do, and he's doing it against returnees. And something that's so interesting about this season is that unlike every other iteration, even like Australian Survivor where Liz wins, like the returnees really dominated, and the returnees really dominate any US Survivor season where it's a hybrid season. This season of the 50-50, the returnees really like were beaten pretty badly by the newbies most of the time, I think. And I think that gives Tommy pretty good prep going into AUV World where he might be up against more experienced players, but like he's used to that and doing very well with it. So I think that behooves him, and he's shown that he's very good against even returnees here to like control votes, control splits, and win through these later pre-merge votes.
Yeah, and just one other thing as well. Obviously, I have to throw in the plug because, I'm a Kiwi, but they had the outpost, Shannon.
Someone talk about the outpost. Yeah. That was really
Yeah.
fun. I really liked the outpost. So they had an outpost which has been stolen from many franchises. You got to love when these internationals are clearly watching each other. Shout out Jeff. Maybe you can get some advice from the internationals. But Survivor South Africa, we like shamelessly stole the outpost for Return of the Outcast, and we should have called it the Outcast Post. Now I think about it. But anyway, that would have made sense. They had the outpost, which was like they had a couple of different. It was mostly like around negotiations a lot of the time. And one thing I really liked that they did was they had, they gave everyone, like you have to choose 2 people to go. So they chose 2 people to go to the outpost, and they both had like cards with different rewards on it. And the way that it worked was that if you both put up the same card, neither of you get it. If you put up different cards, you both get it. And there was strategy around like, okay, well, if I'm not going to have eggs, I want you to not have eggs. So they blocked each other out of that. And then they had like different individual things. They had mystery things. One of the tribes ended up getting tequila. So a lot of those were really, really fun. Like there are some things that are left to be desired from production, I think, in Survivor in this season. But I think some of the ways they did the challenges and some of the ways they did the outposts were very fun additions.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. One last thing about the pre-merge, but I think I have a new favorite challenge of all time. It was like that team tag challenge. It was kind of like a race course, right? And you're like tied together. You had one team that would like race out, go over this obstacle, and then you had people from the other tribe chasing after you. And I think they had to like tag you or grab onto like a sandbag or something like that. And I was like, this is such a cool, great challenge. I'm surprised that Australian Survivor, who loves like their wrestling, they're running at each other and stuff. I kind of feel like that might be a great challenge for them to maybe pick up. Who knows?
Yeah, I really liked a lot of the ways that Survivor Finland did the challenges. A lot of the time they would do things that matter strategically, which makes me care about the challenges. Like they had an archery one where the targets are each other and you choose who to try and like take points from. US Survivor has really given up on stuff like the chop challenge, but I love that kind of thing where you really show your hand. After this, I was so confused in this, but basically they needed to run out time. There's only 16 people over 15 episodes. Every episode is an hour. Premiere and finale are an hour and a half. So, and we had a medivac around the merge. So they're going to merge at 8, right on a medivac, which is an incredibly late merge. I don't think I know a merge at 8 that I can think of. I mean, I know that I think it was 9 that Stephanie went to Karor. I can think of some merges at 9, like All Stars and Gabon. I think but like 8 was so late. So I was a little bit concerned. They'd done so many swaps. They got to this merge. I'm like, the game kind of feels like it's done, especially when you're used to like these really big merges. Then they get to this final 8 merge, which it's Murgatory. But they never explained what was happening, or if they did, I missed it. And it kept changing. Basically, so they did this really fun challenge, actually, where you would, it was basically a race. You had to go out and get a weight, and you ran back, and whoever was last was out, but they had to give how many weights they had, and they could distribute it amongst the other people. Again, like strategic consequences. Yeah. The top 2 people, which was Halmeri and Tommi from my memory, won, and then they had to choose 2 people, and those 4 people were in what I thought was Murgatory, like they were safe. Then they're like, hey, only those 4 people they got reward. Then only those 4 people were going to vote. I'm like, that's a lot of power. But then they're like, oh, but you're only voting to give them like a cursed vote. I'm like, so many things have changed. What is happening? Like it was like, who's immune, but they're not immune, but only they are voting, but they're not voting someone out. And like, I was just every single time I was just getting so much information, and I kept like having to recalibrate whether I liked the twist, and then the twist was just so different in every stage that I thought. I did like the challenge though.
I think what they needed to do, right, was wait till they get to tribal council. It's like, all right, now the 4 of you are going to do a fire making challenge, which only one of you is going to vote, and then the person voted out is going to go to.
But they don't go home. They go to Redemption Rock. Yeah. Well, the thing is that because they had the medivac, they were trying to like expand the time. But which they're going to do later as well. They do a challenge for the letters from home, which ends up being 3 reward challenges in a row. And I'm like, I'm having Survivor Quebec flashbacks. Like, it's interesting how much the international franchises are happy to just keep feeding us reward challenges and keep feeding them every day with just reward challenges. Yeah. But it was mostly fun. I just don't know why, if you have a 15 episode run with an hour each episode, like just started it more, just have 18 people, right? But yeah, it was feeling a little limited, I think, at the time when they were trying to stretch it out.
Yeah, and you could really feel the stretches as well, because I kind of feel like those moments like the Murgatory or the letters from home, it was kind of like, all right, we kind of know what the strategy is. Nothing's really changing. This isn't bringing any new dynamics or anything like that. So it just felt like the same stuff over and over again. I definitely did fast forward a lot through those series of episodes just because it was the exact same thing.
The easiest thing to fast forward, and one of my favorite quirks about Survivor Finland, is they read the votes so slowly.
Oh, yeah.
Like any Bachelor fans out there who know how they hand out roses, it's like there are 3 roses left, but like 5 of you, so 2 will go home. And my mom and I always laugh at like how they're explaining the math, and it's so slow.
Yeah.
That was Survivor Finland. He'd like read the vote. He'd be like, "This is the 3rd vote. If you get the next vote, you're out." I'm like, "Don't commentate. Just read the votes." Like at every stage, we were getting the play-by-play. I was like skipping through because you could skip through 20 seconds. He was still in the same vote. I don't even know what the host's name was.
Yeah.
Like, he was fine, but I was just like, "Get to it." There'd be 5 minutes left. It was just the vote read. Anyway, that's my little rant about the vote reading. So we get to the merge. It's an 8-person merge. They do these curse vote thing, which doesn't even matter. Like those people don't even go home. Yeah. But then the only thing was that it was like it could kind of have, you know, like showed their hand about who they chose to be with them and who they voted for the curse vote. But the thing is that Tommi and Mary have now like built up this group of 8 that is so untouchable. They have Sammy, they have Julia, they have, is it Vipri? I'm butchering it. Virpi. Yes. Virpi? Yeah. And then they kind of bring in Carolina, and it's the kind of dominance where they're just like playing with house money. Like it's never going to go bad for their group. They can drop like a Julia at some point. She like votes wrong by accident. They're like, "You're out." And then they like bring in Carolina, and she like turns on her allies because the people at the bottom are so desperate. Like they're not even really mounting some sort of like counterattack. Like to call it a pagonging would be too gracious to the people on the outside because they weren't mounting something as like a counter group. I feel like it was more just like a hierarchy that was picking off the threats and like the people at the bottom until we get to 5. But yeah, like 8, 7, 6, I feel they're just deciding who they want to go, who's a threat to them for that group through those 3 votes. And that's why I was like, we merged so late and now the game is over and nothing's going to happen until it really did. But that was kind of also a snoozy little period of the season.
It was almost like the Island of Secrets, but without Jacques and without Dante. You know, you just have Rob and the Amigos. And imagine if Jacques and Dante aren't there, and it's just them just slowly going through, you know, like Jeffrey, like Quibus, Maba and stuff. That's pretty much what the merge felt like, really. Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't like it was like, you know, very moral, you know, they weren't like mean about it in any way. They were just kind of like completely in control. Like I don't think Tommi pisses people off. Like he wasn't even like, you know, he wasn't really duplicitous. He was never even disloyal ever. He never had to be disloyal. Much like Cass, he never has to vote out his closest allies. He goes to the end with one and the other one is taken out from under him, exactly like Cass. So he's not this like really big wheeler and dealer, but he's just like completely in control and just like calling the shots. He and Mary, I think, together. That's how I saw it. I look at the voting chart now and there's like, it's a very confusing voting chart. I'm like, I don't remember the semantics of why that's like a 4-2 to 2 to 1-1 vote, but I remember like the general vibe felt like he and Mary were like leading it with a group and just kind of, you know, almost could do it in their sleep. Then it got to the final 5. So that's when like, so it's Tommi and Mary, and he wants to go to the end with Mary, which we'll talk about. And then there's Sammy, and they have a final 3 with Sammy. There's like these 3 guys. And then there's Virpi and Julia. And Julia's on the bottom for like reasons. They've like kicked her out, kind of. She wins immunity. So like, I guess we have to vote out Virpi. And then I'm like, wow, they're really going to do that when clearly Mary is the biggest threat. Mary wins a lot of immunity. He's vulnerable now because Julia's won. It's like, how can you not take the shot? But they do take the shot. It was shocking. It was that was the big blindside of the season. It happened at 5. It's so interesting, these old school style seasons with a final 2, like you can get this type of gameplay really late. As we know in like US Survivor where it's a final 3 and final 4 fire, like final 5 is usually just kind of like, you know, taking out the biggest threat. It's usually like a big funeral moment, but it's like not like real gameplay because it's like really the final vote. Whereas this final 5 is like, so there's still a lot of things happening. And the 3 got together, Sammy especially turned. And that's how Mary went home. So I was blindsided by that.
And didn't Mary have like the fate in his hands? The dice?
They expired at 6. So this was something really interesting because usually the idols, he had played his idol, his amulet, should I say. Yeah. He would have had 2 of the dice of fate, but they had all expired at 6, including the idols. So that's a pure round. So that's interesting.
Yeah, because I would have thought like surely just play it like you're at like a vulnerable stage, it's the last vote. But yeah, no, that's actually interesting knowing that it had expired. So it's like there's literally nothing Hail Mary could have done to have saved
Yeah,
himself there.
because if it was about, oh, I need to have Sammy with us, he could have played it, not had a vote, and then on the 2-2, if he would have
Yeah,
been protected under pre-47 US Survivor tie rules, they would have won 2-1. But on post-47 US Survivor tie rules, he wouldn't have been protected because he wouldn't have got a vote. It would have been 2-2 again. But who knows what the tie rules are in Survivor Finland. And also the die had already expired. Well, both of his dice had expired. But yeah, I mean, you do have to give up your vote to play the Dice of Fate. But yeah, there was nothing he could do. It was the biggest move of the season, and it was impressive for Sammy, who's going to win, to turn and do the clearly correct thing to do. But it wasn't like a difficult move. There's nothing that can protect him. They did blindside like two really good players, but also was just like a really simple, like definitely vote out that guy, right? So it wasn't like the best move of all time, but it was like shocking. It was the right thing to do, and it was like a massive blindside of Hail Mary and Tommy and me.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like stuff like Dominic or Wendell, like if they ever got blindsided or voted out in Ghost Island, right? Where it's like these two guys have been in so much control throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
And it's like the fact that one of them is even voted out, it's like, how? Like they're in so much like control that like even though it's the most obvious move possible, you still think it's just not going to happen because it is just too obvious.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That is true. I think often in like cakewalk seasons like that, like you like just get together and vote them out, and they don't. So when they do, you're like, yeah, it's okay. Because I thought like because it was mainly like them two and Verpy and Sammy were the main like four that were like that was like their group, and I was like, you merge at 8, you have Hail Mary and Tommy, and then you have Sammy and Verpy who were like the dad and the mom of the tribe, and they were like so loyal. We'll talk about Verpy soon in that loyalty that you know. They were so loyal that they're gonna protect them. You know, they like I was like, this is the kind of buffer that allows two guys like this to like walk through the game unthreatened pretty much because they have a plurality of 8 and then a majority going through of these two people who will not turn on them. Unfortunately, Verpy then became the target and was also kind of close to Julia. So they were kind of working on their own thing. And Sammy, we'll talk about it, like Mateo from Amazon Star was learning the game and realizing like, oh, I guess I have to play this. So he really took a turn to turn on them. And I think that they got a little cocky, like they took him to reward. They're like us 3 guys. And I think had he just let them walk to the end, even though he's about to win, had he not had that moment of transformation, I don't think he can beat them. And it's very, very hard to assess his jury, but a lot of it was on his transformation. He would have gone against like the biggest physical players who had completely controlled the game with no win over them. And it would have been a terrible move. But I think that they assumed his loyalty would win out over logic. And he had like learned to be logical at that point, which to his credit was like a massive win in the biggest moment of the season over Tommy, which we'll talk about when it gets to the final 2 of them. But yeah, that was a huge win and a very big loss for Tommy. His only loss in the season.
Yeah, that's probably the only knock I have against like Tommy and the guys like game where essentially they were the big threats. Everyone knew that they were the big threats. And like for multiple votes, it was like these guys, like if Hail Mary loses, we've got to take him out, you know, and we don't take him out, maybe we go for Tommy, but they never go for Tommy. And so since it was like that, like constantly, it's like at what point do you just like break and take them out? And that's how I kind of saw it. It's like, oh my gosh, finally someone had taken their shot. So that's probably the only knock I have against their games. But otherwise, it was pretty much a steamroll.
Well, the thing that I was thinking about is like, well, is Tommy going to go to the end with Hail Mary? And that is what Tommy was really thinking of doing. It's what he reiterates he was going to pretty much do in the final tribal council. And I was kind of, because the whole time I thought that Hail Mary was beating him at the end. I was like, this is just Cass again. He's going to go with his biggest ally to the end. But I'm not nearly as critical as his hope of going with Hail Mary, even though it doesn't pan out. I think because I don't know that he would have lost against Hail Mary. Like, he's going to lose against Sammy, which was more shocking to me. I just think this is a very hard jury to understand. You know, and like, if he's going to lose against Hail Mary, like he lost against Sammy, like he might have lost, and again, like with Sammy having this big moment, but they might have loved like Julia's underdog story or Verpy's kindness. Like, I can't say that this was a jury voting purely on game or strategy. Like, they might have been bigger threats to him. Whereas if he and Hail Mary had a similar game, he might have been able to argue that and then win on that metric. So I don't think it would have been terrible.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's a lot safer with Hail Mary in the game. Like we see, he's really going to have to fight at 4, which we'll talk about once Hail Mary goes. If he orchestrates that himself, certainly looks better for his resume than having it taken out from under him. But yeah, it leaves him a little bit unsafe at a Final 4, and we'll talk about a possible Final 3, which apparently is sometimes a vote in Survivor Finland. So I do think that it would be put him in a vulnerable spot compared to like Cass had a lot of protection. And I also think that he has a better shot against Hail Mary than I think Cass had against his lane. So I'm not as critical of it, but it's a very interesting note to his game that he was never going to turn on these main allies. Like he really was going to play this team game at the top of it and run it down, keep his closest allies to the end and hope to win that way. It might have been a winning game. I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying that it's not the type of game where he's like blindsiding his number 1 allies.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess it's really hard as well because the Hail Mary is like a solid, like he's never gonna like betray me or vote me out. Similar to like a Luke and David, Parvati and Sari, these sort of duos going into Australia versus the world. Sometimes it is good having like that number 1 duo, but it's kind of like, well, if I take them out, am I seen as a massive traitor and I lose respect from the jury? If I take them out, like, do I have any agency moving forward? Because I'm very clearly the biggest threat for the 4 and the 3 vote. So
there's a lot of pros and cons, and I don't know that I can say that like the pros of taking out Hail Mary outweigh the cons. Like I think that even the safe path like might have been for the best. And you're right, Hail Mary thinks he can beat Tommi probably too. Like it's quite an even partnership there, and Hail Mary won like a lot of challenges. So I think they could probably both speak to things and probably think it's their safest path not to be on the outs. I mean, certainly taking him out at like a 5. We'll talk about 4. Like he's kind of in a tough spot at 4. And then moving through that. So like maybe a little later, but the other thing as well. So basically the way the Final 3 works is that it's a challenge. Hated this, by the way. Couldn't have hated this more, but anyway, we move. Final 3 challenge. Top 2 people in the challenge go through. 3rd person is gone. Awful. Worse than fire. What are you doing, Survivor Finland? But apparently sometimes it's a vote. So I don't know what they knew it was going to be, but like Hail Mary is really good at challenges. So I guess you're putting yourself up against someone physically very good, which isn't great. But like if it's a vote, then you can also like trust that he probably will take you. You're giving quite a lot of power to a good challenge competitor. I think that's a bit of the issue. But then you also want a much safer path with someone you do trust a lot. And you can also come second in the challenge or win with him, and he might take you to the end in a Final 3. So yeah, I don't know that I can say that taking him out at a 5 seems really risky, and even like maybe a 4. But like I think thinking to go to the end with him and sitting at the end with him in that similar type of story and trajectory, like I'm not that mad at it.
Yeah. No, and I mean, especially with that final challenge as well, because like, especially if they went to the end with Julia, I would be stressing out if I was Tommi, because Julia's also a great challenge competitor. Maybe if it was up against, like, it was like the 3 guys, maybe.
Yeah, well, that's what he wanted.
Tommi, I feel comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. They were trying to take out Julia, so it would have been like they tried to take out Julia. She wanted Final 5, so if it had been Verpi, they would have tried Julia next. Like he wanted to go to the Final 3 with Sammy and Hail Mary, and then I think probably through with Hail Mary, but you never know at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, but can I quickly say something about the Final 4 though?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I want to talk about the Final 4. There's a lot going on at the Final 4. We're not blasting for it. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess maybe just skipping ahead a wee bit, but like Verpi's decision.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So Tommi wins immunity. Important. Yeah. Okay, that was his first immunity. His only immunity win. Like his only pure individual immunity win. So it's getting to the point where what happened was Sammy flipped back to be with Tommi. So in Tommy's defense, after being blindsided, he does have other options. He's going to win the challenge, and Sammy would have taken him to a tie, which apparently in Survivor Finland means some sort of duel. We'll never know what that duel would have been, because then they can't vote out Tommi because he's immune. So Tommi and Sammy are going to vote for Julia, and Julia's voting for Sammy, and she says to Verpi, vote with me for Sammy and send me to the duel, whatever the duel is. Now, to explain Verpi, in her first vote of the season, Verpi played her die of fate, and didn't vote, even though she knew she was safe. Yeah. She wasted that advantage, a 1 in 3 chance of immunity, just because she didn't want to vote. She didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. This was the mother of the tribe, too soft for the game. So it gets to the point they vote 2-2 tie. They go into the duel. I'm like, we don't have a lot of time for a duel, but okay. And then take it away, Mucky, about what happened next.
Okay. Okay, so bear in mind, the tie is between Julia and Sammy, right? So it's not even like Verpi has received votes. It's like,
She's
well,
the only
I'm
one who
probably not
hasn't
going to do that.
of the three that can. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's probably
She's
the
very
most
safe.
like spot. Like maybe if she was in the tie and she knew what the deal was, like, oh, like I'm clearly not going to win this. I might as well just go home now. But no, it's
Well,
not even that.
yeah, it wasn't even that.
Yeah, you can still try. So, tie between Julia and Sammy, and then just like, hold up, bro. I want to quit. Why? Oh, because I feel like Julia and Sammy deserve to be there at the end and not me. And then, she walks up, gets her torch snuffed, and isn't even a part of the jury.
She wasn't part of the jury because she quit. So
Yeah.
here's a fun fact for you. So this was like what Tara did in Survivor New Zealand, but with Tara they like orchestrated a 2-1-1 vote. This was a 2-2 between Julia and Sammy, and Verpi was like, "No, I quit." Now I have some lore around this. I've been speaking to some of our wonderful Finnish fans. Do you know this?
No, I know nothing about
Okay.
Survivor.
Yeah. No. This was so Miyuku, who's from Finland. I was talking to Miyuku about this. Verpi was a returnee and apparently did this in her original season.
What?
At the final four. Yeah, she did
No
it twice.
way.
Apparently, at the final four, that I checked this season, like the voting records, like they just voted her out. But apparently because she was like, no, I don't. They deserve it more than me. Vote me out. So they voted her out, but that she asked to be voted out at the final four. So people were apparently angry that she was asked to be back on this season because she basically quit. And then she did the exact same thing with the final four. I'm like, oh, that's enraging and hilarious. Like, why are they letting in this serial quitter? Like, it's like what they said Colton did, but actually true, because Colton, to be fair, was Betty back the first time. I know, like, he had his issues, but like he was Betty back. But like she at the final four both times was like, I can't. You guys go ahead. What?
Yeah,
amazing.
She deserves
amazing
a spot on
Survivor
Game
Finland
Changers,
award.
if you ask me.
Well, I think if they bring her back again, people will probably riot because I think they were like, we literally told you this would happen, and did you think of it? Like, it's weird that it happened twice at the final four. I need to check if she was on the jury of her first season.
Yeah, because like surely like if you miss out on the jury the first time, it's like, okay, I now understand the consequences of not doing it. Because I guess something sort of similar with like Traders New Zealand, we had like a massive moment in our second season where someone pretty much like denied being a trader and quit, but that was for like a very obvious strategic reason and stuff. But for like Survivor, surely you want to be a part of the jury, like even with Tara, she wanted to get voted out because she knew she wasn't going to win at the very end. So she's like, I'd rather give the shot to Lisa and Dave because they have more of a genuine shot of winning than I ever will. So there's like some sort of morality or I guess, strategy with that. But this is just, nah, I'm cool. I kind of want to go home now.
Well, the crazy thing as well is that, as you said, like we often see like a Ben in Survivor, like winners at war, but they're like, I can't win anyway. Like I might as well help my friend. And like, I'm usually pretty kind about that because I like when people know their limits, and I understand not wanting to go get like destroyed at a final tribal council, get 0 votes, especially if you're not getting more money for it. Like why? That's just trauma.
Yeah.
It really is traumatic for people. But who knows with this jury? Like Verpi could have won.
Yeah.
Who knows? Like she was really well liked. She's the kind of person who would sacrifice herself for people. Yeah. And I don't know, again, this was such a strategic jury. Like if she goes on as like, I was the mom of the tribe, they like did a Mother's Day thing for her. Like she was really like kind of adored. She might have won, but she was in the jury in her first season, which was season 3. Actually, her jury vote was cancelled out, which we will talk about. But she was. Do you think this time they were just like, go home and never return?
Look, you've pulled this crap twice. We want nothing to do with you.
Yeah, I mean, this is just off what one fan told me. Like, again, in the voting records, like, she's actively voted out. Ironically, she voted for Walu, who we also know from the season. Oh. But, they all voted her out. But what I'm hearing is that she put... I would hate to defame her, but what I'm hearing is she put her hand up to go home in the final 4 twice! So, she was removed from the jury. Yeah. So that meant that we had a jury of 6 people.
6 people. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, there was, because of the Medivac, like they had to bring Walu in from the pre-merge. And he was so not like 6 people, and that's not even the whole merge, which is crazy.
Yeah.
It's like more than the merge. Yeah. And Verpi is gone. And so they're like, what are we gonna do about Verpi being gone? So then they have a challenge to give someone an extra jury vote, which is gonna prove important, as we'll see.
Yeah.
Because I think they should have just kept Verpi on the jury. Like, I'm sure they were sick of her shit by that point, but like, She should be a
No.
juror, I think. But anyway.
Yeah. But even then, it's like with extra jury vote, it's still up to the jury person to decide if they want to give that jury vote to them, right? Because wasn't it that Sammy gave Julia the extra vote, but if Julia wanted to, she could have voted for Tommy with it?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't get, it's not just an extra vote. It's about knowing the jury well enough to be like, who's definitely going to vote for me twice. So, to not bury the lead, Tommy's going to lose 4-3 with that extra vote. 3 people voted for Tommy and 3 people voted for Sammy. I'm like, is this a co-win? Like, is that a loss for me? Like, that one challenge that Sammy wins to get the extra vote? Like, we'll talk. There's a lot of nuance here, but I don't know. How did you feel about the fact that Tommy lost on the basis of just the extra jury vote?
Oh, I mean, it's like I did like Sammy, you know, and I think a great argument for why I think Tommy lost was just simply just the story of his game. You know, Tommy was always in control up until the final 5, but with Sammy, he was like on the bottom, and then there was like another swap, and then he was, you know, at the top. And then things were a bit shaky for him, but then he was like running things with Tommy and Hail Mary. But then he was also kind of like, well, I got to flip on them at some point. Makes the move to take out Hail Mary. Whereas with Tommy, it was just like top, one small rocky like fall. But then he wins immunity and is in the final 3, where it's a challenge to reach the very end. Whereas Sammy was constantly up, down, up, down, up, down. So I think that's why the jury respected that kind of game over Tommy, just because it was more of a adventure for him more so than Tommy, who was just always in control.
Yeah, I mean, look, okay, there's a few things here. I mean, if it was just Sammy winning on the extra vote, like, I guess a lot of times people are going to win and they lose one challenge, and that's all it would be, you know, just one challenge, like, you know, many people. And that's kind of how Tommy would have lost. In some ways, it's that. I think for me, I'm a little kinder to Sammy winning because I think Verby definitely would have voted for Sammy to win. So to be fair, like, if the juror was there, I think Tommy loses anyway. If anything, it'd probably be more of a robbery if Tommy wins that challenge, and then like Sammy not only doesn't have Verby voting for him, but then also has this extra vote against him. But I do think as well, like, one of the things that Leo said when he was voting was that Sammy giving the extra vote to Julia pushed his decision. So it was a very important extra vote. And that's why, like, when I look at like what did Tommy do wrong to lose 4-3 with an extra jury vote, I don't have a lot. It's kind of like when Charlie lost in 46. Like, he obviously is blindsided at the final 5, which I do not condone. But, like, I don't know how much is his other path much better. I don't know if he beats Hail Mary. I think it's a very tough, and he's not doing anything wrong not to beat people. I just think it's a very tough jury to assess. As you said, if they want that kind of underdog story or like trajectory, Tommy doesn't have that. Like, the thing that they describe him as is consistent. And I think, like, he does speak well at the final tribal council, and he is well liked. He has a good social game. He's not doing anything to put people off. I just think he's going to be against maybe either like beloved Verpy or, you know, Julia's amazing underdog story or Sammy's incredible transformation. Hail Mary also might have won, but also was in control with him. Like, I don't know which way the jury takes that. I find that really hard to assess. So I would have voted for Tommy personally, but I don't know that there's a lot that Tommy can do to try and get around that. I think he was good at the final tribal council. I think, he was blindsided, and that's like the biggest knock at his game. And I'm not mad at a Sammy win either. I think Sammy has that big win over him at the final 5, and that matters. Sammy, as you said, had a much trickier pre-merge. He went to tribal council a lot more. He was on the outs at his swap and really made himself like physically necessary to cause some like a big flip on Nico, who was a returnee, and like to save himself when he should have been at the bottom. So he did have like a really good pre-merge, and he was learning the game on the fly, a lot largely seemingly from Tommy. So like the trajectory is good. Like if that's what people want to vote for, like Tommy cannot offer that, but it's not Tommy's fault, you know? And if people wanted like Tommy being consistent, and he argued really well that like, you know, even after he got voted out, he did have that underdog story. He did win the challenge. He came back at the final 4. He got through to that point. So he had parts of that as well. But I just think this jury was looking at different things. If I was this jury, I would have asked, how do you reckon with the fact that Sammy beat you so hard at the final 5 vote? You know, like you're meant to be the strategist and you lost it. Like, and I think Tommy could say, you know, I was socially insulated. I wasn't voted out the final 5. I had Hail Mary as a shield. And then I came back and I got Sammy back and I won these challenges. And I think that there's stuff there. But yeah, there's definitely earned ways that Sammy's story, as we said, this big ascent, beating Tommi at the final five. Like, I think that is really earned, and I feel a lot better that Verpy would have, I'm sure, voted for Sammy, because otherwise I would say Tommy's like one of the most robbed people in the history of the show by losing on an extra jury vote. But because I think that the jury was, I mean, obviously at least close and probably not slightly not in his favor anyway. I'm not as mad at it, but it is a wild way that he lost the final tribal council on an extra jury vote. That is crazy to me.
Yeah. I think something else as well about Sammy is that, like, he had quite like a family sort of relationship with everyone. Like, he spoke to how they, you know, Julie said he was like a father figure out there. He spoke about how, you know, this game is going to make him be, you know, a much better husband, a better father of his own kids and stuff. And I think there is something about like, you know, a family man. That's what made Luke super famous in Australia as well, right? So he's just like, you know, a great father to his kids, and he like provides a lot for his family. So your more casual general audience, like, oh, I can relate to that. That's how I kind of feel like the jury maybe related to Sammy. It's like, oh, he's just a family guy. He, you know, just wants to do things for his family, just be, you know, a great husband, a great father. And Tommy's like, oh, I've just always wanted to play this game. You know, I've been a fan for like over 20 years. Here's my shot. You know, I don't even care about the money. I just really want the title of it. So I kind of feel like there's that personal difference kind of thing, if that makes sense. But nothing wrong on Tommy's end, though. It's just like a personal, like, it's almost like the greatest moral question, right? Do I vote for this guy who's like had a lot of fun? Yes, he played a great game and it's a stream. Or do I vote for the guy who probably needs the money for like his family and stuff? It's
yeah, I mean, to be fair, the money was 30,000 euros, which I thought was crazy. I think that's the least amount of money I've seen given out on any of these shows. And actually crazy, like Quebec is giving 100,000 Canadian dollars. Like, the fact that US Survivor is doing $1 million is really looking like more and more of an outlier. Like, these other shows are not doing that. But yeah, you're right. It was like comparing apples and oranges. This is why it's really hard to criticize Tommi, because it's not like, okay, Cass went to the end against Ghislaine and they had the same kind of game, but like Ghislaine just was more out in front and she didn't take him out. They're like comparing the same thing, but he did it better. Like, this is, do you want a consistent player, or do you want someone who really learned on the fly and like kind of got there in the end? They're not even being like, I'm voting for you because you beat Tommi in this instance. It's literally not anything against Tommi v. Sammy. It's just what one has, the other just doesn't have. If you want the older family man, you're not going to vote for Tommi. It's not Tommy's fault, you know. And if you want the guy who's like loved it for 20 years and is just excited to be there, like Sammy doesn't have that, but he can't have that. If you know, it's just a completely different game style, a completely different archetype, and people were voting in these really personal ways with nothing really negative. Like, there's nothing I think that Tommi did badly, or even that Sammy did badly to lose those votes. People seem to just kind of want one thing over the other, and it kind of, in that old school way, it was very much like, I want this specific thing, and you like tick that box and you're different archetypes. And again, I don't know what, like, Tommi can't do that. Like, Tommi doesn't have a trajectory. He came in as the big fan, and he was like controlling things pretty early on. Yeah,
I do think with like a new era type cast, or maybe even like a cast like Australia versus the World, I think he would have 100% gotten the win. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would have voted for him. I think that, like, with a new era cast, the question becomes, how do you reckon with the fact that you as a strategist get beaten at the final five? That's how I look at it. Yeah. If you can answer that well enough, then yes, you were the better strategist overall. Yes, you were leading things, and you will get the vote. But that's a big strategic loss. But again, that's apples and apples. That's like this rubric of strategy. Like, does Sammy get better to eclipse him strategically because he beats him in this way? Or is Tommi still above him even with that loss because he's been so far out ahead? That's that same kind of strategic rubric that I think a new era cast often, not always, but often people kind of look at it like that. We as fans, I might look at it like that. That's not what this jury was doing. Like, Tommi can't really control that. So I don't know. I don't put a lot on Tommi. I think Tommi was really fun to watch. Obviously, I come and invested in him anyway. I also like Sammy a lot. But yeah, I come in one. I don't know. I know he doesn't win, but I'm like rooting for him. Yeah. It's just so funny because I'm like rooting for him to do well in the challenges. I'm like, he makes it through. He gets second. Yeah. But yeah, like, I come and invested in Tommi. And yeah, I do. I think that he's a great player. Like, he's a very well-rounded player. Yeah. He is good at the challenges. He's like good at different types of challenges. Not endurance as much. I feel like he's good at like all the obstacle course type challenges. Yeah. He won a lot of reward challenges. He's often like up there, strategically super savvy, like knows the game really, really well, and is really likable. Like, again, he's kind of just as well-rounded player, and I don't really see where the fatal flaw is.
Yeah, and it's not like a flashy player either. Like, I'm sure we'll talk about the World Tribe and some of the players he'll be playing with. But he's very much like a subtle, like, just get everyone on board to vote this one person out. Whereas players like a Tony is like, look at me, here's all my idols, like my bag of tricks and stuff like that. And so all the attention's going to be more on those kind of players. But that's, I guess, jumping here a little bit, that's how I see Tommi skating through really far in the game.
Yeah, he's just like happy to be there. He was just happy to be there for this season, let alone in like with all these legends. So who do you think Tommi, like who do you think he'll get on with in this cast?
Well, a couple players. I feel like Cassandra, just from what I've heard about it, I haven't seen her season, but also Rob are two players I feel like he'll get along really well with. Because something that I really liked about Tommi at the very start, yes, it did kind of cause a little bit of friction with like your Parks and your Leos, was that he was working hard at the camp. He was trying to make the shelter. It took him forever to make that shelter as well. I feel like they only slept on sand on the first night. It was kind of sad to watch, but he was forever working on the shelter, always grabbing food. And I feel like with a tribe like the World Tribe, you're going to see Tony, the second he leaves the camp, oh my God, where's Tony going? He's going to grab an idol. He's going to make a spy shack. You see Parvati talking to someone. It's like, oh my gosh, guys, that's Parvati talking to someone. She's like, whirring her magic all over them. But if Tommy's just there chilling, like, making the shelter, who's going to worry about Tommi? And I feel like it could be players like Cassandra, maybe pretty much like the one-time players I can see gelling really well with Tommi. And I also saw an interview that like was ages ago where Tommi said that two of his favorite players was David Gannat and Tony. So
oh wow, okay, so he's also like obviously a big Australian Survivor fan, because you never know when people are like multi-decade fans if they've got into Australian Survivor. So that's awesome. So if he's a big Tony fan, I think he'd be excited. Like I think we know like Lisa's going to be like a big kind of fan in that environment, but Tommi as well. Him being a fan was so much a part of his story even here. He talks at the final tribal council about how much it hurt him to vote out the returnees from Survivor Finland because of the like lore, and how much he cares about them, how much maybe more so with someone like a Tony. So I think he's going to be like geeking out a little bit. I think that could definitely see that being his archetype, that he's so passionate. And honestly, if he's a big fan of Australian Survivor and US Survivor, like he might have the most comprehensive knowledge of the cast. It's a low bar. But I mean, that definitely puts him in the top field of that. So that's pretty cool that he likes them. Like I could think that he does really have good relationships with so many different type of people, as we say, like different demographics. They really like, they had like a bit of a family unit. It was funny. Like he kind of had the brother in Mary, the sister in Julia, and the parents in Verby and Sammy. So we've seen him kind of with all different demographics. I could kind of see it all. We saw him having like, with Mary, like really like teaming up with a strategic partner who also was quite level-headed. So I don't know necessarily who that would be. Could definitely be like a Cass, Elisa, I could see. My concern for him, like all of these people, is that he comes in, no one knows who he is, and he's just too disconnected. Like it's hard for me to put too much stock into someone like a Tommi who really has to prove himself because no one will know who he is. So that's already really hard to have to, try and create like the aura around you that someone like a Tony or a Parvati or whatever come in with. And then I also think it's just so hard to be so disconnected when there are so many connections in the cast. So for those reasons, I worry. But like for his skills, like I have no real concerns.
Yeah, I was trying to like map it out because I was really bored at work one time. I should have been working, to be honest, but I was like doing like a boot order prediction, and I had Tommi as first boot for the longest time. And the reason why I thought that, I hadn't seen the season, but also I don't think a girl is going home on the World Tribe at the very start. Like I think there's like going to be the whole cool idea. Oh my gosh, we have 2 members of the Black Widow Brigade. Wouldn't it be cool if we had like a all girls kind of alliance going? And I don't know. I've been kind of thinking, like everyone's saying it's so obvious Tony might be the first one out of that tribe, but is it too obvious? You get what I mean? Like maybe he might be kept around one vote as just like an early shield for Parvati and Suri. That maybe that's why they take out someone like a Tommi who isn't as ginormous as Rob, isn't as crazy as Tony. He might be just like that easy first boot. But after seeing this season and stuff, I think he has what it takes to actually make it really far.
Yeah, it's just like, why take him out early? Like, he's not hurting anybody. He's working hard.
Yeah.
He's doing he's helping in challenges. And, like, he's nice. People will like him. Like, he doesn't have enemies. The only issue is he doesn't have friends. The only issue is, like, okay, if we're all connected to each other, you just are the odd man out. You could see, and that's my issue with these like kind of unconnected players. And I think that is a bit concerning for Tommi. I did notice, I went to his Instagram with his many followers. He had a baby in April. You know he's an Australian Survivor player. The best thing for fertility is to go on Australian Survivor. Now, I've done my conception math. He would have conceived that child before he went out there, just before. Sorry, Tommi, we get personal on this podcast, but man, the lore or like the just the process of going on Australian Survivor, that immediately having a child. Kaz is pregnant.
Yeah.
What is happening on those islands? Shawnee's having another child?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shawnee's having another child. There's only 14 people in this cast. 3 are having or have had a child since playing. That's a big percentage. What happens in Australian Survivor? But Tommi and Cass, welcome to the fold. You are officially Australian Survivor players because you are with child. So Mazel Tov. But yeah, it actually is. It's just genuinely one of the craziest things about this franchise. But okay, so anything else with Tommi? Is it? Another thing I was thinking with him is that I think he of anyone will do well in this format, because this was a 16-person cast into a very short merge with a Medivac. So we've been talking like who can do well. This is obviously, it was like a 34, 35-day season. So it's not about the time, but it's more just the limited numbers. Getting down in like those smaller tribes, but also just maybe like a smaller merge. Like his experience, I think, lends itself the most to that kind of, coming with 14 players, what might be a bit of a late merge. I don't know when they merge. But yeah, I just think he might be used to that. Obviously, it's like a really tiny jury. I don't know what the jury will be. But if any of that is very limited because it's such a limited season, I think Tommi's experience is more like that than any of the other seasons I can think of the other players, especially the Australian Survivor players are used to like these massive tribes and these like, massive mergers. So I think Tommi, that's quite a good structure for Tommi to have that knowledge.
Yeah, and I guess in the day it's going to come down to what the cast is going to prefer overall. Like you could almost look at the season like the equilibrium game. So we did like a while ago, because I went into that being like,
how could I forget?
I literally went into it and I was I mean, aren't you like a winner of Australian Survivor because of it? Like with Cheddar?
It was. That's what they say. It's on Wikipedia as well.
Yeah, but I recall going into that being like, I don't have many connections at all. I'm probably going to be early out, which is funny because I had Dylan like on my podcast talking about Lisa, and he said, yeah, you were like the safe vote for like the longest time. But it's like the game is so fast, you're constantly thinking about threats and stuff and what you can do, that maybe Tommi might have something similar, right? Where it's sort of like, he might be the safe vote, but let's say they don't go to the very first tribal. So then they have like another day to think about like Tony, Parvati, and Sari, or even like Rob, who literally looks like a giant mountain. And it's like, you know what? Like, we've got to start taking out these threats, right? So maybe that's how Tommi might skate by, but who knows with the season? They might have a tribal council like within half an hour of being there, which I would actually pay to see that. That would be pretty fun to watch.
Just on the Matt Tribal Council.
Yeah, Matt Tribal Council.
Yeah, I really worry for these players that people don't know enough about. Cass, Tommi, Lisa, that they're going to have to really introduce themselves and, just a couple of weeks later be someone that you will vote for, probably against a legend. Like if you're sitting next to a Shawnee or a David or what, have you played such a big game that it's not more impressive than the fact that like Shawnee is finally at the end and she like made it despite being such a huge threat. I just think it's so hard. And that's why I'm higher on like the bigger legends that are known, that don't have to also like that start, like they start as threats, but there's less time to take threats out. And there's so many threats. I'd rather come in as a threat and have that like bank knowledge for me at a final tribal council, especially if it's going to be at a final 3. I'd rather, and I don't know if it'll be at a final 3, but if it is, then you're just so likely to be against massive names. And I'd rather kind of have that reputation where people will go to vote for you and navigate being a threat than like, Tommy's not a threat just because people don't know who Tommi is, but he has to play out of his skin to sit next to probably a Luke or whatever and beat that person. I think that's just really, really tricky to do in such a short amount of time as well. We said this with Winners at War. Like if you're next to Boston Rob, but you're Nick or Ben or whatever, are you winning? But the bigger name winners have an aura about them that is more likely to get votes and also is impressive because you got to the end with that target on your back. But it makes it harder if you're a smaller name to be against them and not be seen still in like a smaller kind of stature. So that's my kind of concern for him. But from a playstyle perspective, Tommy's great. Glad to have met him. Glad to have met Cask. And I have one more thing that I have a question for the Finnish fans, the wonderful Finnish fans that we have of the podcast. I don't know if this was something for you. Does Finland love salad? Did you there was one reward for salad. It was like a medium to large bowl of salad that they won. This is a terrible reward. They were going on and on and on about the salad. It has feta. I'm like, I like feta more than the next person, but this is a terrible reward. It's not even like it's chicken salad. It was not a good reward. Then later at the merge, they're like, you will win this reward. It's a barbecue and everything. And they're like, and of course, salad. And then they get there and they're like, salad. And I'm like, what is happening? Is this like a thing in Finland? Or was I just like mistranslating how much they seem to care about this? I didn't understand. And then you know what I had for lunch the next day?
You had a salad?
I did. I had a salad because it got it in my head that I wanted salad. And I'm not really someone who will have a salad for lunch. But I was sitting, I'm like, I'm so healthy. I'm like, I don't know that I'm enjoying this salad, to be honest. I kind of wish that I'd gotten a breakfast burger. But they made me think that salad was. I'm like, I do like feta, but I don't understand. So if people in Finland let me know if salad is a thing, or if I was just reading too much into the fact that they seemed way too excited about the salads.
Yeah. Well, I guess the most important question to ask, Shannon, is what is your go-to salad? You're like, right, I got to make a salad. What's your salad?
Well, I love potato salad because obviously potato salad is mostly just mayonnaise and potatoes, right? So that's it's not really a salad. If I put, I don't know, I don't like the green stuff. So give me a great dressing, put in some egg, put in cheese, put in just like so much cheese. Like they were going on about the feta, but like I can't say that salad is my number one go-to. Terrible reward, right? Just salad. That's a side of a reward.
Yeah, like if it was maybe like a Caesar salad, because I love Caesar salads. It's like, okay, yes, no, that's pretty great. A couscous salad, I do quite like a couscous salad. And I think it was my father's birthday. We had all the family, some friends over and stuff. But I was just really hooked onto the salad. I was like, 14 or something? I was like, wow, this is such a great salad. And I just kept on eating the salad.
I don't know.
But it was just like a regular salad.
Yeah. Caesar salad is usually my favorite. The issue is we went on a cruise like 10 years ago and they were really good Caesar salads. So I had a bunch of them. Then I came home and like love Caesar salad. I was having Caesar salad for lunch every day. After a couple of months, I told my mom this. She was like, I hate to tell you this, but I was having without anchovies. I'm a vegetarian.
Yeah.
My mom was like, I hate to tell you this, but like the dressing for Caesar salad usually has anchovies in it. I'm like, oh, I've been breaking my vegetarianism for months. How unfortunate is that? I couldn't have another Caesar salad after that. My mom was making like veggie Caesar salads for me after that sometimes because she's great. But I've now I would always go to the Caesar salad, of course. Egg, croutons.
Yeah.
That dressing is great because of the anchovies, maybe. It was great, but I had to give it up, unfortunately, and I also should never have been eating it. So
honestly, that's probably more heartbreaking than Tommy losing to an extra vote, like having to give up the Caesar salads.
Yeah, it was very, very upsetting time in my life. I feel like I messaged Tommy. I'm like, I would have voted for you. But I like Sammy too. It was fun. It was a good season. It got really good in the last 3 episodes. But I can't believe that Double quit at the final 4. That's like Survivor history. Like if you come away with one thing from this podcast, hopefully it's about Tommy, but also that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Mucky, do you have any more? Do you have any more thoughts on Survivor Finland or Tommy?
I guess one thing I loved, we talked about, how chaotic the subtitles were and stuff like that, and how sometimes they didn't match up. One time there was a whole final word segment, but the subtitles had already played for it. So it's kind of going over, when the host was talking. So when the player was talking about oh, I'm so sad to be leaving, there was no subtitles at all. And every time there was the tribe has spoken. It was different every single time. I think probably my favorite one was the tree has spoken, I've got to go.
The tree has spoken.
And it's and the host has to go. It's okay, that's pretty great.
Yeah.
And another one.
I
wrote it down actually. Let me quickly find it because I just thought it was just because I looked away for a second and then I looked back and this is what it said on the subtitles. It was I can't vote for Pock. I really like his cheeks.
I thought that's what he meant.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah,
you just
I
have to
was
go
like,
with it.
yeah. I was like, is that mistranslated? Am I like missing something? But I was like, you know what? I like that as a statement. I'm just not gonna go back for context. I'm just gonna move forward. And yeah.
Yeah. We understood like 70% of the season probably. I have here, I took the screenshot where in the middle of the subtitles it says in like a bracket thing, it's important to note that the original Finnish text may have some transcription errors or awkward phrasing. This translation
Yeah.
aims to convey the intended meaning in a more natural way. Like in the middle of it's like telling it's like, I'm sorry, I'm trying my best. And I'm like, I'm trying to understand, but it's okay. We met
Yeah.
Tommi, we know Tommi, and we spoke about this with Cass, but obviously he'll be speaking English, which will be interesting to not
Yeah.
to be playing not in your first language, which is yeah, that'll be kind of its own thing. So he's up against a lot. No one knows who Tommi is coming in.
Yeah.
Truly, I don't imagine anyone going in is going to know who Tommi is,
Yeah.
and they're going to find out. And Tommy's great, so he's a great addition to the season. But Mucky, tell the people where they can find your podcast and everything that you're doing.
Yeah, well, my name is Mucky Hope. I'm also Mucky Hope Productions. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube at Mucky Hope Productions. As I always say, subscribe for some cheeky, naughty times. I don't know about you, Shannon. I've been up to some pretty cheeky, naughty stuff. We had a whole tsunami warning, and I went down to the beach just because why not?
Yeah.
It was a chill time. People were going out like fishing and stuff. People were surfing. People on kayaks. It was mean. It was chill. It was fun. Thankfully, no tsunami here in New Zealand. So, it was a wee bit of a cakewalk. But yeah, you can find us on YouTube at Mucky Hope Productions. We're covering Australia vs. the World, The Traders, The Amazing Race when it comes out. Many, many different shows. And yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Shannon. It's been a huge honor to come on to Rob Has a Podcast. I've been talking to you for so long. But it's crazy that we haven't actually podcasted together before. So yeah, I'm really grateful you got me on.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you for watching Survivor Finland. And now you can say the cheeky times are Pox cheeks, because that's apparently was saving him in the show. But yeah, no, this was great. I hope that people learned a lot about Tommi. And now, so after this, I think so we're gonna have George next, and then Tony, and then Parvati. And then I think that's it. Then I think we've done all of these World Tour podcasts where hopefully everyone will be very prepared. And then we're going to have more preseason content. I think we're going to have a draft. Ooh. We're going to do another different thing with Rob, just like chatting about it. And then hopefully it's a look with Bryce. And then the season will start. And we'll have done, I don't know, like 20 podcasts. So excited for all of that. Again, August 17th is when the season starts. We'll see you all there. Thank you all for listening. Thank you to our team behind the scenes. Mucky, thank you so much for watching Survivor Finland and coming onto the podcast. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.